Dragon's Wish by M.R. Anglin. Chapter 1. A rumble, like distant thunder, echoed off of Lauphah's stone city walls and thrummed through the cobblestone streets. What was that? Sevrin gazed up at the bright blue sky, visible above the thatched roofs of the city's buildings. Must be quite a storm rumbling in the mountains. It almost sounds like the roar of a sneeze exploded out of him. After wiping his nose with his sleeve, he squinted in the sun. Not one cloud in the sky. Strange. How could it have been thunder he heard? Glancing around, he surveyed his surroundings. If he had heard something more unusual than a storm, he was the only one. People brushed past him and went about their business without even a passing glance at the sky. It was as peaceful a late summer morning as anyone could ask for. Warm air weighed on his shoulders and sweat beaded on his forehead, despite the early hour. It was going to be another hot one. "Hey now, move on!" A man shoved Sevrin out of the way. Sevrin bowed in apology and resumed walking. It was market day in Lauphah, and the streets were filled with men, women, and children bumping, yelling, and shoving. The odor of dogs wandering underfoot, chickens, sheep, and whatever other animals had made their way onto the street mingled with the stench only people who hadn't bathed in weeks could exude, and the sun's heat intensified it all. Sevrin didn't know of any other scent which spoke so readily of home. Wooden carts and stalls, filled with dried vegetables, fruits, meats, spices, fabrics, even some with a bit of jewelry, were set up on either side of the road. Merchants who had traveled along the countryside to get to Lauphah called out to customers examining their wares. Children darted in and out of the crowd, yelling and adding to the noise. Sevrin took a deep breath and clutched his bundle closer to him. This town was alive on market day. A roll of fabric jumped off of a stall and waved itself in front of Sevrin. "Would you like to buy? Very soft, very beautiful, wove it with my own 2 hands, I did." Sevrin smirked. He knew that voice, so ready to sell to any passers-by. It belonged to Daisy, the wife of a weaver and a weaver herself. Though she lived in the city, she had set up shop along with the traveling merchants, sometimes selling to her fellow villagers, sometimes selling to foreign merchants looking to expand their inventory. He tilted his head from behind the fabric. "Good morning, Miss Daisy." "Oh, it's you, Sevrin." Her smile vanished, leaving her freckled face host to a frown. She had no energy to waste on smiles to non-customers, but it didn't mean she didn't like him. "Where are you off to today?" She folded her fabric. "Shouldn't you be helping your father tend the farm?" "I'll get to it." Sevrin gave a sneeze. "I'm heading to the apothecary." "Are you ill?" Daisy suddenly stiffened. "Or your mum?" "I hope no illness has befallen me." Sevrin sneezed again. "Mum's doing well, too. I'm going to Master Knighton because I found some plants I want him to see." Daisy examined his face, her eyes softening a bit, almost as if he had told her his father had been thrown into debtor's prison. "I wonder about you sometimes, boy. You're like your mother." A smile jumped to her face. "Fabrics! Fabrics for sale!" Sevrin glanced over his shoulder. Behind his back, a merchant in colorful embroidered clothes, obviously rich, had passed, and Daisy was looking to make a big sale. The merchant's eyes flicked over her fabrics. "On my way back," he said, and walked on. "The Lord blesses." Daisy snickered to herself, which was to say, she planned on charging a hefty fee if the merchant decided to buy. Sevrin smiled to himself. Miss Daisy had a personality too big for the walls of Lauphah to contain. "I'm off, Miss Daisy." "Sevrin, dear." Daisy grabbed his arm to stop him. "I've known you since you were a lad." She leaned forward to look in his eyes. "Don't you think it's time to get your head out of the clouds? Lord knows your mother won't. Why don't you be more reliable like your father?" "What's wrong with going to the apothecary?" Sevrin glanced in the direction of the shop. "His medicine saves lives." "It's not the apothecary, you dope!" Daisy clocked his head with a fist. "Don't you think I know what you're doing? You and your mother both." "What am I doing?" Sevrin rubbed his head where she had clocked him. "You're trying to get him to apprentice you, aren't you?" Daisy said, hands on her hips. "Not at all." Sevrin sneezed and wiped his nose. "I can't be apprenticed by him. I'm a farmer, have been since birth. No one's allowed to change jobs like that." "Then take it as a sign. You should know your place." Sevrin took a deep breath. All he wanted to do was learn about the world he had been born into. While he knew he couldn't make it as anything but a farmer, no one said he had to stay ignorant his whole life. His mother certainly didn't feel as if he should. She had taught him his letters and how to write since he was a child. She taught him the world was more than his father's plot of dirt on the king's land. Maybe he'd never get to see what life was like beyond the distant mountains, but it wouldn't stop him from seeing more than everyone said he should. But Miss Daisy would never understand, even if Sevrin tried to explain. No one ever did. So instead, he gave her another smile. "Good day to you, Miss Daisy." "Good day, ça va? Would you like to buy some fabric?" Daisy's voice ended in a sales pitch for some unsuspecting traveler. A distant trumpet resounded off the streets and erupted her sales call. At the sound, every citizen in the marketplace halted. As one, they rushed to the main street. Sevrin backed out of the crowd's way and pressed against Daisy's stall. In a matter of moments, the entire population of Lauphah's market had converged on the edge of the main street among shouts of, "She's here! I didn't think she'd come through! We have to get a glimpse of her!" Children burrowed through the legs of adults to get to the front of the bustle. Something had gotten these people all a twitter, but even standing on tiptoes, Sevrin couldn't tell what had gotten everyone so excited. "What's happening, Miss Daisy?" "Blessed if I know. I heard tales the princess would be riding through town today, but it's not but a rumor. I can't take off like everyone else to see if it's true. Someone may steal my wares." Daisy folded a piece of fabric as if she didn't care about what was happening, but her eyes never left the crowd. Sevrin peered through the wall of people. Could it really be the princess? A loud voice called something out, but he couldn't hear what it was over the racket of the crowd. Might it have been a herald announcing her arrival? "I'm going to find out." "Careful now," Daisy said, by which she meant, "Don't do anything stupid to get yourself in trouble. I want a full report when you get back." With a smile over his shoulder at her, Sevrin trotted off to see if the princess had truly descended from her palace in order to bless the city with her glorious presence. The end of chapter 1.